It's won into the UN Security Council. What should be Nigeria's main agenda at the UN Security Council?
But let us examine for a minute what the Security Council does. The Security Council is the highest body in the United Nations that ensures that there is peace around the world. Now, where are the countries that are giving the world a lot of concern? We have Egypt, we have Syria, and we have DR Congo. Now, Nigeria being there is going to take the African perspective to that and ensure that whatever decisions that are taken there, Nigeria is front, right, and center in making those decisions. There are certain other things that are of grave concern to Africa and the African continent, the ICC. Just last week, the International Criminal Court, African countries came together and said that they wanted a deferment on the trial of Kenya's president and vice president and Omar al-Bashir of Sudan. Now, of course, Nigeria is an African country. Nigeria is going to have to sit down and have a conversation. Now, whatever happens coming out of the deferment, and there are two things they're asking for. They're asking for that, and they're also asking that as sitting president that they should not be exposed to the trial processes. Nigeria in that position is going to have to take the African Union position, and Nigeria is going to be expected to push the African Union position to ensure that that happens, for right or for wrong. Of course, the debate is on as to whether it is desirable for the rest of the world. Furthermore, Nigeria as a country, I mean, I'm sure you're well aware, and you know, it's a very interesting thing, because right now there's a lot of restitution as far as stolen artifacts are concerned. Nigeria and the Security Council is sitting in there, and we're going to be a great beneficiary of that. And I'm hoping that Nigeria is going to be able to do something with regards to that. Of course, the Egyptian issue is an African issue. Nigeria is going to have to take a position that affects that. And, you know, when you also look at the fact that we're going to be sitting down with talking about terrorism and insurgency, because insecurity in Nigeria is a very serious reason why Nigeria is probably not meeting its MDG goals and so on and so forth. And there's staggered development in the country, and we must all develop together. And I think that being close with integration and interaction on a world agenda to rid in the world of terrorism is something that Nigeria is going to have a very strong voice on. And of course, if that works there, then Nigerians are safer and more productive. Furthermore, of course, the Arms Trade Treaty is something that Nigeria is going to have to push the Nigerian position, and it's all about Nigeria remaining safer. So I think that when it also comes to taking a critical look at democratizing the Security Council, Nigeria, with its foot already in there, is going to be able to sit down and take a look at democratization of the United Nations Security Council.
Nigeria's election into the UN Security Council was denounced by the United Nations Human Rights Watch due to the failure to curb insecurity in Nigeria. They also went as far as saying that Nigeria should go back to put its house in order. What's your take on this?
Well, I think that with Nigeria had gone to the United Nations, to the Human Rights periodic review. And we came out of the periodic review and we said, you know, first and foremost, Nigeria is basically, there's an insurgency in the north. We're dealing with that internally. Nigeria has set up a state of emergency. And let's not forget that within the state of emergency, there was the rules of engagement. Now, that is the best you can do when there's that, to protect the women and children. It was brought before the National Assembly. The National Assembly sat down and looked at the instrument that gave them the powers to go in and declare the state of emergency. Furthermore, we have ensured that there is autonomy of the Human Rights Commission to give them first-line charge with their money and give them autonomy. I think Nigeria has done pretty good. I think we've done pretty good. Of course, there will always be the skirmishes, and I don't doubt that they probably do exist, but I do not think that Nigeria's election should be decried on the basis of that.
Now, before we wrap up this interview, could you give us an insight into the workings of your committee and how it has been able to interface between itself, the National Assembly, and the Foreign Ministry, the parastatals, and Nigeria's foreign missions abroad?
Permit me to say we're very busy. and I see you chuckle, because some people may not think so, but we are very busy. We have 102 missions around the world. We engage the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Our duty as a legislature is to make laws for the good governance of the country, to oversight the laws that we make, policies and appropriations, and that is what we try to do. So in our missions, we engage, of course, our citizens outside of the country to ensure that, to find out, how they're engaging with regards to the visa processes, with regards to even the immigration aspect of the missions. And I recall that we also have engagements with the DAs, the defense attaches in those countries, to ensure, to find out the level of peace within the area, how it affects, and also to track Nigeria's investment flow and the engagement between people who are desirous of coming to Nigeria. So yes, it is hard work, but a lot of people don't think so, but it is hard work, and I think we're not doing so badly. Honorable
Nina KJ, it's been a delight having you in this edition of Network Africa. Thank you very much indeed.
A time comes in the life of every race when people are driven by echoes of the past to chart a course for an exalted future. Africa is a blessed threshold, as major actors in the Africa arena plots a renaissance towards common destiny. Let's pedal across the streams of yesterday, through the backstreets of Africa to the defining roles of policymakers, the political realities of the African nation, balance of power, and the strive to sustain national interest and identity. Join us on Network Africa on Channels Television. Network Africa, the rallying point for the emergence of a new Africa.
Thanks for staying with us. Welcome to News Track on Channels Television. I'm Joka Rogers.
And I am Olumide Macaulay. Many thanks for joining us. These are the stories we're tracking this hour. The Yobe State Governor, Alhaji Ibrahim Gaidam, says unless adequate security measures are taken, an extension of emergency rule for 6 months will simply amount to motion without movement. In a statement through the Special Advisor on Media and Information, the governor says that the federal government should, as a matter of urgency, provide security personnel in the affected states with advanced weaponry and communications apparatus that can counter those of the insurgents.
The statement also asks the federal government to review and upgrade the surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities of the security agents on ground so as to detect, prevent and bring justice to any criminals or insurgents bent on carrying out attacks or wreaking havoc on innocent people. Governor Gaidam is asking the federal government to, as a matter of priority, deploy and maintain regular aerial surveillance and ground patrols along the major highways in Yobe and other affected states.
Now, staying with security issues and the drive of the Nigerian Air Force to be a self-reliant and highly innovative force through the application of technology in support of national security, may have begun to pay off.